Honorable Mariyam Muna, the President of the Human Rights Commission of Maldives. The discussion will be facilitated by Ms. Binda Magar, who is the Assistant Resident Representative at UNDP Nepal. And as panelists, we are honored to have Ms. Won Yong Hong, the Country Representative of UNFPA Nepal, Honorable Alefina Vuki, the Commissioner of the Fiji Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Commission, Ms. Rosa Toese-Siaosi, the Director of the Human Rights Unit at the Ombudsman of Samoa, and Ms. Sonali Regmi, a noted gender expert in Nepal. I request all the speakers to come forward on stage.
Thank you so much, Sadek for welcoming us. Good morning, everyone, and I have a pleasure to facilitate this all-women panel. So give a big round of applause for these all wonderful women leaders from around the world, and very privileged to also facilitate this panel discussion today. So without a further ado, we are already, I think, a little bit late in terms of starting the discussion. I would like to start with a very warm introduction of all the panel members as well as the chairperson for this session. So as informed by the moderator previously, Honorable Mariyam Muna, our respected President, National Human Rights Commission of Maldives, will be a chair of this panel discussion. And just to briefly share about her experiences and also how she has been contributing in terms of the human rights. So it has been a long history in terms of her experience. Since her work also focuses on promoting and protecting human rights within the Maldives, addressing issues such as civil liberties, gender equality, and justice for marginalized communities. I would also like to highlight briefly one point that her role in improving the human rights conditions and ensuring that the rights enshrined in the international and national framework are upheld, it has been very instrumental. So I would like to welcome the chair of this panel discussion, Honorable Muna. I would also like to introduce briefly our other panel members for today. Honorable Alefina Vuki, our commissioner from Fiji. She has spent around 32 years of her professional life as a career civil servant, and she first entered the civil service as a secondary school teacher under the Ministry of Education. So you can see the depth of experience she brings, starting from her career and now serving as one of the prominent, noted commissioner in Fiji. So I will not elaborate more on that because we will hear from her in terms of her experience in Fiji. I would also like to introduce Ms. Rosa Toese-Siaosi, Director of Human Rights Unit, Ombudsman of Samoa. So thank you for joining us. Ms. Rosa is the director, and she has extensive experience working in various government agencies and organizations within the community development, law and justice, and business sectors. And we will hear more about the work and her experience during the discussion. I would also like to introduce Ms. Sonali Regmi, a noted gender expert. I know her since quite a long time in Nepal, and she has been an extremely valuable human rights lawyer and who has over 20 years of experience in advocating women's rights in Nepal. And she also had contributed a lot in terms of the policy formulations, program design, and all. And last but not the least, I would like to also introduce Yong Hong, UNFPA, sorry, my apology, UNFPA representative for Nepal. And she brings a wealth of experience, not only now here in Nepal, but also she has worked in Bangladesh and other countries. And we will hear more about her experiences in the due course of time. Now, without a further ado, I would like to request Honorable Chair for this panel discussion to shed a light on the session itself. It says enhancing the external works of NHRIs. We have been hearing about the issues of NHRIs and how we should be working internally and externally to promote human rights of women and marginalized groups. So we will be very delighted to hear from you, if you can shed some light. And I would request if you also could limit yourself for 5 to 7 minutes in the beginning, so that we will also get a little bit of time to discuss and get questions from the audiences. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the Nepal NHRC for allowing me to be present here today as the chairperson of this esteemed panel. It's indeed a lovely feeling here. So I would like to thank all of you on that side. So looking at the topic today, why is it so important for us to talk about gender-based violence and sexual violence in this Asia-Pacific region? If you look at it, there are certain alarming statistics which states that for around 11 to 64% of women have at their lifetime experienced some sort of sexual violence with their partners as well. So this is an alarming stat that we should consider that we take certain action towards combating these issues. Also, there are further studies that has been done in this Asia-Pacific region. There's one study which is it states the perpetrators' confessions, which states that it was done among 6 Asia-Pacific countries, and then the study found the findings were that 4 of every 6 men who had done confessions in this study stated that they have somehow raped their partners. So I think these are alarming situations and alarming statistics that we should take this matter into consideration. And as NHRIs, what we can do is, since our role is very much dependent upon how state actors are acting and how cooperative the actors are, the state institutions are, we should always have a good relationship with these state actors in combating these issues. And to bringing in, when we're talking about protecting, promoting, reporting, and advocacy for this matter, I think there has to be certain standards that should be set in all countries. So in doing so, NHRIs, it is important for us to be always present with our internal and external stakeholders and always have a robust communication going on in between in order to combat the situation, identify the gaps, and always look for a proactive matter or manner in which we could handle or try to work towards elimination of these issues. although there are laws specifically for protection of gender-based violence in countries, we often see that the statistics are never coming down. There are issues forever persistent. So it should be either way, not only laws can handle it or do the cure that we need, but we also need a lot of advocacy and a lot of information that has to be, passed on down the line. So I think that is very important in this for NHRIs. And it is an important role for NHRIs to always be engaged in the advocacy work. Coming to gender-based violence, oftentimes we see that victims of gender-based violence often revert from their claims. They tend to claim to a certain extent, but very limited. But then again, they tend to take back their claims because of a number of reasons. Number one would be mostly the stigma behind it. Stigma because within the society which limits this cause. So we have to, the NHRI's role needs to be strengthened, and we have to have a lot of advocacy programs to tackle the problem of stigma within the societies. Another reason we find often is that empowerment of women in society. And the financial independence and empowerment of women will be key in tackling these issues. So I think in policy making and decision making tables, there should always be interventions done by NHRIs in order to facilitate means by which women could be more empowered so that they are not victimized because of this reason. Also, very interestingly, we can see that when we look at the victims of gender-based violence, oftentimes we can see highly educated people being victims of gender-based violence or domestic violence. What are the reasons behind it? The stigma and the dependency on their spouses or partners, and also the support system within the country or within the society. So if they're supposed to leave an abusive partner, do we have the adequate resources to tackle, or the adequate resources that would support our children? So that is number one question. And do we have a support mechanism to finance for the education of our children? So all these systems should be interlinked, and then there should be a holistic approach within the society to tackle these problems. So the issue is very grave, and it is connected, and it is at the heart of our NHRIs, and we should always be engaged with our local, national, and international partners in order to tackle these problems. I would like to highlight that so far there have been a lot of progress made, but then in terms of laws and policies and regulations, but then in practice, the issue is persistent to a great extent. So in order to do this, we should be continuously engaged with our international partners, like treaty bodies, and then ensure that the state responsibilities are being taken care of. It is the role of NHRIs to make sure that the treaty body recommendations for example, CEDAW recommendations for states being implemented. Oftentimes we see that it is just a reporting time period, and then again there will be few things done here and there, not very meaningful, but then for the name's sake, some things will be done by states. So it is the role of NHRIs to ensure that these steps are taken in a meaningful manner. So I think that is very important, and obviously we being discussing this topic today here is that we all are concerned about it, and it is connected to all of us in this room, that the prevailing issue. So I think we have to have an understanding, and we have to deal with it in a very tactical manner, and then new innovative methods. As we go along today in the panel, our esteemed panel members will be discussing further about how we could approach further to enhance these mechanisms. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chair, for setting the stage, and very happy that we heard about the data and also the laws and policies, the situations, the stigma, and also how NHRIs could work to address these issues. So very well said, and very good background in terms of starting the panel discussion today. So with these contexts in place, I would like to request, if I may start with Honorable Alefina Vuki from Fiji, to share. We heard from the chair about the situations. So based on your experience in Fiji, could you share with us about the interventions that you have carried out for protection, promotion, and monitoring and reporting of sexual and gender-based violence? And also, if you could shed some light, your interventions, how you have addressed sexual and reproductive health rights issues also of women and marginalized group. That will be great. I know I'm asking too much in a start, but you could decide to stop at around 5 to 7 minutes, and we could come again as a second round of questions to further elaborate in the question. So, Madam, over to you. Yeah, if you wish to come to podium, yes, you are, please welcome.
Greetings from Fiji. First, I would like to thank the Nepal, sorry for the mispronunciation, the Nepal Human Rights Commission, the Honorable Prime Minister, and the people of Nepal for inviting us from Fiji and for your very warm and gracious hospitality. We count ourselves truly blessed to be here. This is my first time, and the chairs as well. We find this place very intriguing, fascinating, and amazing. I'll go straight because of the time limit. I'd simply like to introduce my country. The geography, it's 322 islands, 110 permanently inhabited. It's 22 degrees south of the equator, so climate-wise, it's tropical. It's prone regularly to hurricanes, severe floods, flash floods, sea level rise. So climate change is a real and genuine concern. Population-wise, we are less than 1 million, 929,766. That's the official 2022 statistics. Male, 65.4%, female, 68.5%. Then we have the third gender, the rainbow people. These are the LGBT. They are not captured in these statistics. They remain invisible, extremely marginalized, and very vulnerable. So we work with this vulnerable minority amongst the minorities that we have. In relation to the Paris Principles, it urges that the role of the NHRIs needs to work in collaboration with other institutions. So we'd like to emphasize what has already been repeated, that NHRIs cannot promote and protect human rights alone. We need relationships and partnership with others. There's two benefits of this, because when your government doesn't want to give you the funds, your external stakeholders can provide donor funds and technical assistance if you do not have technical assistance in areas of expertise in your own region. So the external stakeholders are in a position to provide technical assistance. That is our experience. And also, if the local circumstances change, and then you find that you are under assault, you are being attacked, people that were once friendly, or even the government, are no longer friendly to you, then you will rely on your external stakeholders to advocate for you in the international and regional global arena for your own protection. Now, in terms of the Fiji experience, the strengthening of the external functions of the NHRIs is absolutely reliable on the strength and capacity of the internal resources of the NHRI. The budget has already been mentioned. It is crucial that you get the right budget. For us in Fiji, we are constitutionally entrenched. We also have a legislation, so the state is constitutionally obliged to provide us funding, but our experience has been of late that when we request the budget from the government, they do not give us exactly what we asked for. They give us a little bit, which does not take us to acquire the strength and capacity that we want to acquire. So one is budget. The other is that if you have the right budget, then you need, in terms of the staffing, to get the right skill set and people with the appropriate knowledge, because if you don't, it will also impact on the quality of work that you need to do. Now, having done that, you got the budget right, assuming you got the staff right, right skill set, right knowledge, right credentials, then there's a problem, and it's to do with the leadership. In our experience, leadership is very, very critical. The Fiji experience has been that if you have the wrong leadership, am I out of time? No, 2 more. That if you have the wrong leadership, this can prove to be disastrous and endanger the professional integrity and life of the Commission. So leadership is critical in terms of the functioning of the NHRA and in terms of the external delivery, because the NHRA must be seen to be independent. Once it loses that independence, it loses its credibility. I will quickly move on. We have engaged in fostering healthy working relationships. At the local level, we've worked with the prison and the corrections institution very closely. I'll just tell you an example. For 10 years, they refused. They refused us to work with them, to come and do inspections or to investigate complaints from prison. But this year, we managed to hold several meetings with them. They allowed us to carry out familiarization visits with all the 15 prison facilities. Don't forget that we also have women criminals. They also need to be attended to. And in July, our chairperson, he's sitting right here, he signed a memorandum of understanding with the commissioner of the correctional facilities. In relation to the monitoring, international reporting, we have reported to the treaty body on CEDAW in 2018. And recently, in July 2024, we made a report to the Human Rights Council for the Universal Periodic Review. Also, in national reporting, we report to the parliamentarians by way of the Parliamentarian Select Committee. So recently, we submitted our response to two bills. One was the Child Justice and Child Care and Protection Bill. And so that were examples of how we work with government. We also work through the press statements, not only to monitor human rights violations so that we can respond to them, but we also raise, through using the press, human rights awareness in the public domain. In remote communities, we promote a culture of rights. Given our limited capacity, we work with our external stakeholders. We have a project called REACH. This is just an example. The UNDP helps us to implement it. The European Union and Japan provides the funds for it. And so our staff go out into the remote communities. So what they do is that they teach them on individual rights and collective group rights, so that the human rights community-led project strengthens and empowers them to recognize and take ownership in addressing their human rights issues. Now, in terms of gender-based violence, very horrific in Fiji. 2 out of 3 women in Fiji suffer physical and sexual violence. We help in terms of working with the police, working with the victims to get domestic violence restraining order. We also work closely with sex workers and the LGBTI groups. We're also focusing now on an emerging and very grave issue, which is to do with online violence and bullying. Recently, a transgender committed suicide because of the online bullying and violence against him. So we're hoping to establish very soon a workshop on online bullying and online violence. In terms of sexual and reproductive rights of marginalized groups because of climate change, our staff work with the remote communities concerning their rights to water. We found out that because of the lack of water, in relation particular to women, a grave concern has been that the lack of water has brought hygiene challenges, particularly during their menstruation cycle. So what we did was on International Menstrual Hygiene Day, we raised awareness on International Menstrual Hygiene Day by conducting advertisements in the newspaper. We also, in terms of reporting, we've been writing letters to the Prime Minister in relation to the need for him and his government to pay more attention to the human rights institution being a state institution to comply fully with the Paris principles. I apologize that I have to rush through. If I really don't make any sense, please forgive me.
Thank you so much, Honorable Vuki. You have also given a very broad picture of the work in Fiji, and this is very helpful, and definitely I know that there will be a lot of questions from the audience also, and I will come back to you with the follow-up questions in the second round. Thank you so much for this. Now, I would like to move to Ms. Yong, if I may, since Honorable Vuki had mentioned about the work in Fiji, but also the work that they have done with the different stakeholders, including the government, media, and also with the development partners. In this context, like, how do you assess the support of the development agencies in NHRIs in building the institutional capacity building, if I may, and also to implement the programs that are aligned with the strategic priorities of the NHRIs? How do you see, based on your experience, you could also respond based on the work that you have been doing also here in Nepal with the National Human Rights Commission. So over to you, Yong.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you all, or good morning to you all. I have no idea what time it is, but my name is Yong. I'm the head of the UNFPA in Nepal. I originally coming from South Korea. I am resident of the Malaysia. I studied in Singapore. I worked in the Bangladesh and Laos in Asia. And I'm now in the Nepal. So I really welcome all of you who are really defending the human rights across the entire Asia-Pacific region. It is my honor to see you all. I'm not an expert, but if I just recall, it was 2009. I was in Cape Town because I'm married to South African. I got a phone call from the Minister of Law in Bangladesh. And then the Secretary of the Law that time, she called me to break the news. Human Rights Commission Act was passed after 10 years of the struggle. And at that moment, I never forget the joy. If I was alone, I could literally dancing on the street. So 10 years for us to be able to advocate, to establish the Human Rights Commission in Bangladesh. It took 10 years. And then since then, that time I was with the UNDP, I was directly supporting the Human Rights Commission. Honorable Commissioner mentioned about the Fiji, extra budget support, technical support. We also advocate from the Ministry of Finance, through the President Office, etc. We really have done everything. And gradually, the Bangladeshi government increased the capacity of the Human Rights Commission, and also the cases were brought up to the commission, and then they literally deliver those reporting and then advice to other ministry, and then also they manage extremely well the UPR process, everybody familiar with. So every 4 years, Bangladesh, that time the Human Rights Commission really made the effort, multi-sectorial and including civil society, examine the data, examine those progress, and they put forward those independent report as part of the UPR process in Bangladesh. That was quite a lessons learned. And I have seen number of human rights commissions since then. I worked in the Mozambique, which is a different setting, and I worked in Malawi, different setting, and I came to Nepal, also different setting. Every single commission has different types of the legal the foundation, and so mandate and authorities are slightly different from one country to the other. But they have one common challenges. I'm afraid it may not go anytime soon, which is every single human rights institution continues struggling with adequate resources, human resources, institutional resources, financial resources, sometimes in the space of the building, to be able to respond to increasing range of human rights issue in the country, in the region, and globally. I'm afraid it is not going anywhere soon, because every single country, while they are committed, they're also struggling with their own resource constraint. And after coronavirus, all we have seen it, every single government is really struggling to find the resources. So what I want to also ask the question, we don't have the solution, but we have a question is, on top of the development partner, traditionally, conventionally, trying to fill the gap and also empower all of your agency to be able to increase the knowledge, increase human resources, etc. What else we also need to do to be able to support you better? So one area I was thinking, I really admire the very brave, impartial, independent, objective reporting of every single human rights institution. And I'm also very much impressed that a lot of human rights institutions go to the community to be able to inform them about the right. But sometimes I wonder whether do we have the right languages to make them to internalize, relate to those issues to their life. And also those information unpacked is the right way we can communicate. So we're talking about one of the things I really want to share with you. About 5-6 years ago, demographic dividend was the jargon. And it was the things in the global international community. And then if everybody asking today, how do you define, how do you explain to the community demographic dividend? Because that was the time the youth issue came right after in many other countries, youth were demanding services, etc. Still today, I don't think global community could actually pinpoint and then translate. Since I'm sitting next to the lady commissioner from Pacific region, I want to know what is the word I can explain. Age of the 16 girl who just finished maybe middle school, who has no idea about convention 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, GDP, whatever. How can I explain to her what it means the demographic dividend in investment in my life? We don't have the languages. Many of the human rights reporting, it is very good for experts level, but there is a limitation, individual people, because everybody doesn't need every single human right today at the same time. Everybody value differently, everybody prioritize differently. What is the issue we can discuss with them in their own language at their level, but also I can take back to my own level of the work? It is a big question. We also do a lot of press release, media intervention, etc. Majority of the demographic proportion is given to the young people in this world. Globally, 8 billion people, majority are young people, majority are not reading newspaper. But our media, still communication remain traditional media. Nobody read it, particularly young people. They don't even read more than 3 minutes. How are we going to continue to say we are communicating communicating with the young people to constitute our constituency fully backed by young people. We really need a different innovative communication. Because second part, if a government is struggling, give us the resources, support our mandate. We need one particular group of people need to support us to really justify our existence, our authority, our mandate. Who are? Citizens. The citizen. If I don't have resources, so we call, for example, digital violences. Most of the NHRI do not have the expertise to looking for IP address, tracking down who did it. We don't have it. Not that I say we have to do everything. If we don't have it, usually we go for donor agency. If a donor agency don't have the fund, where we need to go? The citizen, our supporter, the supporter who can bring their knowledges and their voices. Do we have enough alliances who are diversified, much more equipped than us, but much more can be powerful in the communicating their own constituency? Well, we are too much within our comfort zone. We have actively looking for how are we going to build our alliances with the individual citizens who need human rights protection, but who can also violate the protection daily life, but at the same time, they can stand with us to really advocate certain human rights issue in a peaceful, democratic manner. Partnership strategy is a big question in 21st century, and we really need to examine beyond the constraint we will continue the experience, how we gonna go beyond the traditional donor, we can build alliances. The two questions we can actually discuss further. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yong, for a really elaborated response touching on various issues linking with the resources and also our way of working and also the strategy that we could follow for the partnership going forward. So with this, now I would like to move to Ms. Rosa, if I may. We heard about the Fiji and also we heard from Yong regarding the development partners and also the strategies that we could take forward to really working on protecting and promoting human rights of women and marginalized groups. While discussing on this protection, promotion, and monitoring, and also we touched briefly about the reporting also on eliminating sexual and gender-based violence. What do you think, what are the major challenges you see when you work in your respective country? What has worked? And what kind of challenges you still see when you are working in your country? When we talk about the protection of gender-based violence or sexual and reproductive health rights, if I may put straight for you. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam. Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, Namaste, Talofa, Talofa, Talofa Lava from Samoa, the heart of the Pacific. Well, in terms of challenges, Samoa echoes the same challenges as identified by Sonji and also my sister from Fiji. The challenges in misinterpretation of the languages, the treaties, and also, the conventions that many of us have ratified and are a member of. So with this misinterpretation, although we contextualize the languages into our own cultures and into our own environment and our spaces, however, it is still further subject to contradictions and clashes with our cultures and with our other competing priorities. The other challenge that we encounter as an NHRI is our mandate, whereby we do not have enforcement powers. We can only recommend, but we do not enforce. Well, as alluded to by our panel here, there will always be issues around lack of staff. Around the lack of staff comes the issue of capacity. We may have trained and continue to be trained on HR practices, HR trends, HR mechanisms, interventions. However, if we do not have the capacity of the people that we intend to be informed with these interventions, with these mechanisms, that will not go anywhere. And there will also be challenges around the inability to change people's mindset, which is often relates to our cultural upbringing. We have to respect the elders, you have to obey, you have to listen. In saying that, however, Samoa is a member to multiple global and regional treaties and agreements that promote gender equality and empowerment of women and girls. That's how important these issues of gender-based violence, recognition of our children, recognition of persons with disabilities. That's how important these issues and matters are to our government. As a member of the United Nations, Samoa accepts the provision of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the UN Charter. Other international agreements and obligations include the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Sustainable Goals, the Beijing Platform of Action, and others. To date, Samoa is a party to 6 of the 9 core human rights conventions. These include CEDAW, CRC, CRBD, CPED, ICCPR, and CAT. As a signatory and party to 6 of the 9 conventions, together with other international agreements relating to climate change, trade, labor, and others, Samoa is obliged to undertake the legal rights and obligations contained in these treaties. Samoa's NHRI was established in 2013 when the Ombudsman Act was amended to include the NHRI function. Traditionally, the role of the office was ensuring good governance as practiced by the government administrations. As such, a maladministration decision affecting the personal capacity of the employee gives the office the right to step in to investigate and provide advice as to whether such decision was right or wrong. The Act was also amended to include special investigation function, which allows the office to receive, investigate, and determine complaints about an officer of a disciplinary force. Therefore, protection powers are seen under these 2 functions in ensuring that human rights are realized and must not be violated. Our NHRI promotes human rights, education, and awareness across the country through general awareness programs, National Human Rights Day, which is carried out on the 10th December annually, training workshops, parliamentarians dialogue, social media, media campaigns, press releases, youth forums, competitions, the list can go on. These mediums target audience in the likes of schools, students and teachers alike, public, village communities, government ministries, SOEs, parliamentarians and the judiciary, NGOs and CSO, specific groups, vulnerable groups such as persons with disability, women and girls, etc. Practically, the target is everyone. With regards to monitoring, we monitor the progress of our country in realizing human rights by working together with our government counterparts. For instance, our Ministry of Women, Community and Social Development will be reporting on CEDAW, which would have measures that government has undertaken in order to ensure that its obligation under the treaty are met. Recently, we provided an alternative report on a submission by our government with regard to the Convention on the Protection of All Persons Against Enforced Disappearance. As an NHRI, we further provided recommendations to further ease compliance for our government, such as compiling all pieces of legislation to mirror the Convention rather than having various pieces of legislation housing various sections relating to the Convention. Other way of monitoring is through our annual mandated reporting on status of human rights. The office submits a status of human rights report adopting a thematic approach, and this is submitted to the Parliament with recommendations. The office since 2015 have written at least 8 status of human rights reports, which has provided many recommendations to the government and Parliament on ways to better enhance their compliance with the human rights treaties to which it has agreed to. Additionally, Another monitoring is the inspection of detention places, which the office conducts yearly to ensure that the state's obligation for the detainees are complied with and are in line with the international prison standards under the Mandela rules. Finally, in partnership with APF, we are piloting an APF initiative known as Human Rights Community-Led Approach. It is a community-led approach where NHRI work with communities to identify human rights issues. This gives community spaces to create effective solutions to address their human rights issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Soma, Rosa, for these very interesting insights from your country. Now, I would like to quickly go to Sonali ji. You heard a lot from different countries and also from the perspective of the development partners. Based on your own experience at national and international level, what do you think, what innovative approaches or strategies have proven successful in advocating for eliminating sexual and gender-based violence, and also to promote sexual and reproductive health rights of marginalized groups? Could we hear something like in terms of what we have not heard from the panel member? Over to you.
Thank you, Binda ji. Sabaile namaste. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, it's afternoon. I'd first like to thank NHRC for giving this opportunity to speak on behalf of the civil society. And I see so many faces that we have worked together here, and they all have their learnings too. So my learnings basically, it was very difficult to kind of choose what learnings I would want to share here today at this esteemed panel. So I kind of am going to put in a few from Nepal, a few from outside, and trying to say what has really been working. So the first strategy, or I'm not going to go into details or not going to talk about the different strategies in a strategic manner, but more in terms of case studies and examples that have worked. So the first example that I would like to share is about the functioning of OCMC, that is One-Stop Crisis Management Centers here in Nepal, which has been established under the premises of the Ministry of Health, and it is across all 77 districts, functional, effective in a few, overcoming challenges in others. But in terms of innovative strategy, what is innovative here is because it's one place where once the victim or the survivor comes to, they have legal support, they have access to health support, the most important thing, and then moving on to psychosocial counseling and referrals as necessary. Referrals to the police, if they've not come from the police, then referrals to the police, as well as referrals to shelters. I have been here listening to, and not only in this session, but even in the previous session, and even the chair kind of started with talking about response mechanisms. So probably this is one space of response mechanism. And one of these OCMCs, what they've started with is also counseling, psychosocial counseling for the perpetrators, so as to ensure that there is no repetition or recidivism in terms of repeating the offense, and also trying to make sure that the environment that is around the victim or the survivor is safer. So this is the innovative strategy in terms of that. The other example that comes is again from Nepal in terms of establishing a reproductive health rights working group, which is chaired by the National Women Commission. And the members of this are civil society organizations. The secretariat lies with one of the civil society organizations. There are UN partners, there are INGOs, and National Human Rights Commission also is a part of this. National Human Rights Commission of Nepal is also a part of this particular group. And what this group has actually done is coming together and advocating for promoting and protecting reproductive rights, not only of generically women and girls, but even of marginalized groups, and in specific the LGBTQI community as well as women with disabilities. And those two are also part of this particular group. And together what they did was they kind of supported in the drafting and advocacy and lobbying for the enactment of the Safe Motherhood and Right to Reproductive Health Rights Act in Nepal. So that's again an innovative strategy of all different partners coming together and advocating for something stronger in terms of a legislation and its implementation as well. So now, they're working together with the Ministry of Health, and even medical practitioners are part of this group. So it's kind of a holistic group. So for the national level, that's one. And very recently, under the aegis of Ministry of Women, Children and Social Welfare here in Nepal, a GBV prevention and response coordination mechanism has been established at the national level and 3 at the provincial level, which are bringing together the different stakeholders, including relevant line ministries, in order to address gender-based violence, sexual and gender-based violence in a whole, as well as also bringing in development partners, national institutions, national human rights institutions, together with UN agencies. So again, this is a very new approach towards, addressing SGBV in Nepal. When I moved to the international level, and that's where the challenge comes, there were so many examples, and I actually chose 2, and that's because they give a lot of insights into the newer spaces. So the first one, which is called the, it's called the International Development Innovation Alliance, and it includes bilateral, multilateral, philanthropic organizations and CSOs, which are sharing innovative strategies and best practices to address and tackle gender inequality and address and eliminate SGBV. So if you go to their website, you'll see a lot of examples there, and they have established a database of 14,000 innovations. I'm trying to say there are 14,000 innovations to tackle SGBV. And just to name a few, so the first one, which I thought was really innovative and new, is called the Sahas app and chatbot, which is a directory of support across 196 countries, a database of guidance, notes on understanding gender-based violence, as well as over 40,000 organizations offering medical, legal, education, employment, resources including food, shelter, clothing, and emergency support. The second I would like to mention is the I Unite campaign. Then we also have, very interestingly, the Healing in Harmony, which comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo and also in Turkey, where what they do is they work with the victims and survivors of SGBV in creating music to overcome the stress. And one of the most favorite ones that I would really like to share here is the, it's called Judge Jodi. It's a cartoon series in El Salvador, where they are targeting children between the ages of 6 and 9, very interestingly. And it is broadcasted on commercial television worldwide. And it uses education entertainment to change normative values. So I thought these were like newer, innovative strategies. And the other one that I would quickly like to mention is the DFID, started program which is called What Works to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls. And it supports primary prevention efforts across Asia and Africa that seek to understand and address the underlying causes of violence and then stop it from occurring as well. So generating evidence, evaluation of existing interventions, and the most important thing about this program is it estimates social and economic cost of violence against women and girls and developing the economic case for, for investing in prevention. So I kind of looked at all the parts from prevention to response. Of course, I started with response because that's where more work is needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonali ji, for these elaborated examples and also the innovative ideas, not only in Nepal, but globally. I hope this has also generated a little bit of insights in the audience and wanted to ask questions to the esteemed panel members. So with this, before going to the second round, I would like to now open the floor for anyone who is interested to ask a question or anything burning after listening to the panel members. Please raise your hand, feel free. Yes, I could see at the back. Yes, please. I will take 4 first, and then we will go to the second row and see how the time goes with us. Please, mic pass गरिदिनुस् न लास्टमा. And also, no elaboration, if I may request, indicate your name and institution and the panel member to whom you want to pose the question.
Thank you so much for the speech of all the panelists. Actually, my queries is, there are so many regional mechanisms for the protection and promotion of human rights, such as European Court, Inter-American Commission, even we have the Arab Human Rights Committee and so on. Unfortunately, we don't have any effective state mechanism in the Asia Pacific which are working for the protection and promotion of human rights. In this context, how NHRIs of the Asia Pacific region can facilitate to the state to work for the form the regional state mechanism for the protection and promotion of human rights. Why not, after this conference, all NHRIs shall work together to form the regional mechanism? Thank you.
Manjuji, can you please also indicate to whom you are asking this question?
Actually, my queries is all the panelists.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I saw, yes, Haju, Suniji. Eta, Suniji, दिनुहोस् न प्लिज माइक. Yeah. Sorry, विजयजी, हजुर.
यहाँहरूलाई सबैलाई नमस्कार. अब हाम्रो अतिथि पाहुनाहरूलाई पनि नेपालमा स्वागत गर्न चाहन्छु. मेरो पर्सन चाहिँ यो, मेरो नाम चाहिँ मीना देवी शोभ, म दलित आयोगको सदस्य. मैले चाहिँ यो तेस्रो लिङ्गीलाई तपाईहरुको सरकारले कसरी हेरेको छ र उहाँहरुको अधिकारको बारेमा उहाँहरुले जो पाउनुपर्ने अधिकार छ उहाँहरुले पाउनु भएको छ कि छैन भन्ने मात्रै मेरो प्रश्न छ हजुरहरुलाई.
Okay, maybe quickly I will just translate this question from the audience. There is a question regarding the rights of the LGBTIQ community, how it is being addressed at your respective countries. So maybe one of you could respond. हजुर, यतातिर विजयजी हजुर.
Thank you, Madam Facilitator. Good morning, good afternoon. Namaste. I'm Bijaya Rice-Resta. I'm a returning migrant myself. I represent an organization of returning women migrant workers group. And my question will be for our Miss Won Young from the UNFPA Nepal country representative, because I need to know from Nepal representative. So, but thank you for all the panelists for the wonderful presentation. It's an opportunity to know how NHRIs are working around the world, and it's a privilege for us to learn about this. So my question is, since yesterday I'm listening to all the panelists, but as I'm working on migration, I've not heard about anything about migrants. Nepal is a kind of, Nepal's economy, the third largest, the economy is from remittances sent by migrant workers, right? So the thing is that today, talking about the human rights of migrant workers, I just want to, and Ms. Young was just now explaining about the resources, the shrinking resources, especially for CSOs, right? Nepal did not die. Nepal survived in the 10 years of conflict. Nepal is surviving now in the financial crisis because of the economy, because of the remittances sent by migrant workers. But is UNFPA, other UN organizations, investing enough for this group of people for their basic human rights? Women migrant workers are dying in the country of destination because they are not enjoying their basic human rights in the country of destination. Not enough is done for them. And civil societies like us in our country, so I just want to know if UNFPA and the other UN organizations in Nepal, how much they are investing, investing on this kind of CSOs who are working on that. About the international human rights conventions, these migrant workers need these conventions. Like, how much are the UNFPA and the UN organizations are investing on these issues? And how much is the pressure that are you all creating to our government to ratify these conventions? The Convention 1990, UN Convention 1990, is the convention for migrant workers and their families, and the other ILO convention for the most vulnerable groups, the convention, ILO Convention 190 and 189.
Thank you, Vijayji.
So
thank you.
I just understand want to know what is the strategies that UNFPA and all the UN organizations, all the donors are investing and applying to protect the rights of the basic human rights of these migrant workers.
Thank you so much, Vijayji. तपाईले एकदमै important question पनि उठाउनु भएको छ. So one last यता अगाडि gentleman please हजुर उहाँलाई दिनुस् त. Thank you. Please नाम पनि भनिदिनु होला.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am Lubaraj Neupane, working for Regmi Nepal, an organization just working for the human rights defenders, particularly focused to the youth group. It's a very wonderful presentation from all panelists. While talking about the reporting and monitoring on sexual and gender-based violence and the role of NHRIs, so when we look at our Nepalese context, we have seen that all the information, particularly like educating the rights of the the survivors, particularly to be very safe and preventative like environment. All the informations are quite scattered, quite dispersed. Yes, like the initiative of the local government, the initiative of like NHRIs themselves, the initiative of civil society organizations are not streamlined. Like who are they? What are they doing? Where? And when we talk about the responses also, like when we count the even number of the hotlines, okay,
I'll if I may, please stick to your question. What is your specific question?
My question is that all the response mechanisms, particularly like let's say the hotline services, yes, that has been provided by some of the NHRIs and some other like institutions, they are also quite scattered. They are not like streamlined. So what is the role of NHRIs is to streamline or to integrate those kind of like the promoting human rights education and like the monitoring the very integrated response mechanism as to the sexual and gender-based violence in our country. Thank you. So my question is particularly focused to the maybe just Ms. Sonali can respond or UNFPA can respond to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for indicating the panel member also. So now there are 4 questions. There is a specific question, Young, for you on the migration. हजुर हामी फेरि आउँछौँ म्याडम यो अहिलेको राउन्डलाई wrap up गरौँ यो एउटा राउन्डलाई. So Young, there's a question on the migration if you would like to respond and then I will come to the next one.
That's the very spot-on question, migration, but not only in the Asia-Pacific issue. Globally, we know that. Globally, entire world is really confused and trying to figure out how to deal with rights of the migrant people. And it's not the first time humans are moving. Humans from thousand years, humans were looking for better opportunity, better living place. We have been moving. But recently, it has become the very sensitive issue and a very difficult issue bilaterally or regionally, even globally trying to solve. So this is one issue, definitely UN at the global regional, and even the Nepal level, we are working together. In the Nepal IOM, mechanical migration system is the IOM is the right agency among the UN agency. But when it comes to impact and then sexual reproductive health impact, or the women's rights issue, obviously other UN agencies like UNFPA and the UN Women's are always brought in. The issue is, it's not about migrants, although it is a very, very important contribution to the economy of Nepal, but also demographic changes globally. So a lot of developed, the richer countries are also will require consistently importing people to their own country. And then there is also issue within the developing country, not enough decent paid job is created. So it is pushing again the people to go out to earn money and then sending money back. So it is not just about the bilateral issue, and obviously it is a much more broader issue, we need to deal with it, but also there are another factor like me who married to the another nationality. So in East Asia and then South Asia, already there is many Southeastern Asian women marrying to the Eastern Asian men, and there is a lot of domestic violence issue. So how we understand this migrant trend, and what are the mechanisms and the protection need to be built, and who need to provide what services between the country, within the country is the issue we are coming on. That's why we are already started discussing foreign ministry about the enhancing the role of the embassies of Nepal in those countries. But we are also discussing with those majority of the hosting countries who are actually receiving a lot of Nepalese migrant people as well. But again, what I'm saying is, this is beyond the one or two issue. So global regional cooperation is absolutely critical. And then probably this is one of the issues NHRI in the region really we need to discuss, because no matter what we do, climate change, economic crisis, education, whatever, people are not the people we grew up. We are talking completely different types of the human types, and they are not going to stop traveling if the onset of their own country condition is not meeting. They will continue to travel. This is the issue we need to take up, and we are really welcome for you to be able to come up with some idea. And I'm very sure UN agency in your own country will be able to support you in this regard. But this is absolutely right. Very, very urgent, but sensitive issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Young, for this response. There was two questions which is more particularly focusing to the honorable member from Fiji and also for Samoa. So maybe I would like to request from Fiji if you would like to respond on the rights of like how the LGBTQI communities' rights protected in your respective country, and also on the reporting mechanism. That the first question from Manjuji from NHRC itself. So if you would like to highlight on that, Madam.
In terms of the LGBT, the rainbow people in Fiji, because they remain invisible in relation to the capturing of these statistics, they actually have taken the initiative and they have formed their own network, the Pacific Sexual and Gender Diversity Network, and the DIVA for Equality, which is Diverse Voices and Action for Equality. The Human Rights Commission work with them closely in terms of workshop. Before I came, I recently attended a workshop where they were heavily represented, and they continue to talk about the kind of prejudice that they suffer from the local community. There are two cases that the Commission had dealt with recently. One, and our chair is sitting here at the top table, you could talk to him later about it, because he was heavily involved in that case. We picked it up from the media about a case of an LGTB member. He was allegedly assaulted to death by members of the community. So the chair himself got quite involved with it. He issued press statements, and then he worked with the police along with our staff members on that case, and also on the transgender who committed suicide. It is alleged to be using allegedly, because the police are still doing the investigations, because of the online violence. But what happened was they're very crafty, these people on online, so they quickly removed all the data that were very toxic, and that is assumed to have led to him committing suicide. So the Commission is looking into that. In terms of the Constitution, they are protected under the Constitution, but in terms of a specific law in relation to address their problem and certain rights like the right to get married, no such legislation. But their right not to be discriminated against, because they are essentially a human being like every other human being, that is recognized in the Constitution. But specific rights like marriage, Fiji is a very conservative country, and those kind of rights, I hate to say this, but It raises the blood pressure of those in power. I remember the former Prime Minister saying, if they want to get married, tell them to go to Iceland. Also the religious communities. So at the moment, that is the situation in terms of the law, but I could invite the chair if you want, he could elaborate further on that. He's sitting right here, if you wish, of course. Is that all? Is that?
Thank you. Thank you for elaborating on that, and it's quite interesting to know. In case of Nepal, it's more, I could say that bit progressive, because it's all protected in the Constitution, and also very sensitive judiciary we have. In addition to that, the government stakeholders, of course, their effort has been like, how can we further promote and ensure the effective implementation of the constitutions where they have already ensured the rights of the sexual and gender minorities. So it's a learning. These plenary discussions, it brings that platform to share about different perspectives. I would like to go to Ms. Rosa, if you can share your perspective on the questions that was raised on the LGBTIQ and also on the reporting mechanism. Please, over to you.
Thank you, Madam. With regards to the LGBT, we share the same perspective with our neighboring island, Fiji. All rights are guaranteed under the Constitution of Samoa. So no one is rejected, no one is neglected. It is guaranteed under the Constitution. In Samoa, however, we do accept the presence of fa'afafine, transgender, only to the extent we acknowledge and respect their preference. But other areas, I do not wish to go into details, but that's how far Samoa is. We respect, we acknowledge, because they play a huge role within our community, within our families, within our churches, within our local communities. They play a huge and are very instrumental in leadership in every facet of life. In terms of reporting, Samoa's NHRI is mandated to provide an annual status of human rights report to the Parliament. So within those SHRR reports, we identify an issue that is recurring at the time, and then we do a survey and assessment, and then we make a report and make recommendations. One of the thematic one of the issues that we took a thematic approach on our SHRR was on gender-based violence. And that led to the implementation of the first inquiry on family violence. And the report concluded with 39 recommendations, and those 39 recommendations were all supported by the Parliament and have been implemented by the state. And one of the crucial recommendations that came out of it and that is now being implemented is the involvement of parliamentarians in the dialogues on human rights issues. So yes, we do. It's an annual reporting, and it is mandated under our Ombudsman and NHRI Act. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to go to Sonali. There is a specific question on like how or what could be the role of the NHRIs to streamline the different monitoring reporting mechanism, if I have understood the question correctly, or based on what you heard on the question, because that was the indication, a question that was indicated to you. So if you would like to respond, and after that I will also come back to other panel members. Over to you.
Thank you, Bindaji. I think the question was so long that I lost what the actual question was while hearing. But in terms of monitoring and how NHRIs are supporting monitoring in terms of SGBV, I guess the panelists who are sitting here and the commissioners who are here are more in a better position to address and respond to that. But just I'll take the opportunity to respond to the other question that was raised in terms of having a mechanism within the Asia region. And I think lots of efforts have been ongoing for years together The one that I know of is the one started by the SARC, and they brought together different national human rights institutions, UN agencies, CSOs to build one, but for one reason or another, we could not establish that. And probably this forum is the right forum today to kind of further take this discussion further to then why we need to establish one strong joint mechanism here in Asia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe just quickly, one point I could share here also, even though I'm a facilitator, I don't know whether this allows me, but in terms of the Nepal's experience, as National Human Rights Commission being one of the, in terms of the establishment, in terms of the work and mandate, has been the lead commission. And there are a number of other national commissions on inclusion, on women, on Madhesi commissions, in the same way, Dalit commissions and all. So there was an effort from the National Human Rights Commission and also bringing in other commissions to develop a joint monitoring mechanism so that if there is any human rights violations, let's say of marginalized women, so from for example, from Dalit community or Madhesi community. So we don't wait for that respective commission to activate, but we have a joint monitoring mechanism so that there is effectiveness, there is we could address the issues strongly. So those kind of mechanisms were initiated in Nepal, and I think that is something which Sonali mentioned, to revisit those mechanisms and see how effective has been and what else we could do for the, when we have a huge number of delegates from different countries, and we are listening and learning from each other. So with this, thank you so much for all the responses. I will, we have, of course, in terms of the timing, about half an hour. So I would like to go back on, there are a few hand raised who had asked, who wanted to ask question. So not to make too many, maybe only 3, if I may, and we can always have a discussion during the lunch break also. Yes, madam, please.
Thank you. Me, Rina Rana, from National Indigenous Commission. Thank you to all panelists for your excellent presentation and sharing of your ideas. And my query is to Ms. Yong Hwang. On your monitoring report, in your experience, what strategies are being implemented in the practice for the marginalized groups, women mostly, in indigeneity? Are there any strategic, any systemic specialties in strategic for such marginalized women? If so, how are the strategies transformed in action and effect? Thank you.
Thank you so much. My humble request, if you can make your question short so that we could at least cover more. Last ma, हजुर, please. Last ma कसैले mic पुर्याइदिनुहुन्छ? एकजना gentleman wanted to ask. May I request to give a mic, please, at the end? Can I request to please facilitate to give the mic at the end, please?
Thank you. Thank you. Finally. So my name is Pravesh Shivakoti. I come from InHURIT International. We work on human rights, environment, and development. It's a huge pleasure and an honor to listen from this distinguished panelists. It was a huge pleasure. My question would be to Commissioner Vuki from Fiji. she mentioned that there are problems in Fiji relating to climate change and gender justice. For example, she said that there's lack of pure water and a relation with menstrual hygiene. So my question would be, there are my two questions. My first question would be, what are the other problems that the Fiji is facing, particularly in regards to climate change and gender justice? And second, my question would be, what steps have the Fiji government taken to address those queries? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I will humbly request the remaining who had raised their hand for asking a question. I'm just a little bit conscious about the time also. We will take these two questions and go back to the panel members, and we'll see if we can come back in a plenary again. Thank you so much. So there was a specific question to Yong, if I may please.
Thank you very much for the very good question about the participation or the reflection of the needs of the marginalized people in those reports. Not that I can comment that how the NHRIs in every single country are doing it, but I'm very sure in terms of representation of the voices of the marginalized groups, as much as they can, they are doing. The question is more related to the role of NHRI is enough to be perceived as a watchdog, or if we watch and there is some result will come, deliver to the people. That is the biggest issue. So people can be tired of being in the conference, being in the workshop, being recorded, but if they don't receive the result, they are questioning or giving up the hope. So question will be, number one, how are we going to define the participation of those people? Is it just the conference or workshop we need to bring several people from those communities? Or do we need the data? So regularly we do certain survey so they can actually anonymously express their need, and then we have a backup data. Or there has to be any regular communication on a certain issue, but the regularity, engaging with those community has to be established in my view, not necessarily only for UPR, not only for the SEDO, et cetera, et cetera. And the second part, then, if they are heard, how are we going to empower NHRI to stimulate, support, or criticize? Whatever means is government is actually taking the action, while perpetrator is responding to those requests. The consistent monitoring, number one, consistently updating to the citizen about what is going on, consistent engagement with those government body who is not listening, and the consistent engagement with your parliamentarian, president, wherever forum is, this message consistently, regularly updated and communicated. The issue I can see is one of event, and then this discussion dies off. How we going to ensure NHR will be in the domain of awakening, informing people, this matter has not been resolved, we need your support. So that is the one area we are also going to support the NHR to have consistent, regular monitoring, updating, engagement as reporting to the people.
Thank you. Honorable Vuki, there was a question for you also. So if you could respond to that.
Thank you for that question on the water issue. I hope that I have understood your question correctly. What I can share with you is that 2 years ago, our commission, through the APF Climate Change Project, conducted research to see how climate change was affecting people's lives, including women. And a finding was that displacement affects women more, as they have to figure out how they will find water. Now, with the climate change, I did mention sea level rise, because the commission has had to work. I think there was a question as well, what is the government doing? The commission engages in collaboration, team effort with the government. So we had villages that had to be relocated. They could not stay in the original place. So they had to be moved. Obviously, you need government to come in, because the commission does not have the kind of funding and capacity to do that kind of relocation. But the commission, when they go out on these projects, they go also with government people. So while our staff raises awareness, the government people speak to the people about the services and the programs they provide. So that is a collaboration effort. I don't know whether you are satisfied with that answer, whether it is the right answer, but please do let the facilitator know.
Thank you so much for the response. Now, I would like to request each panel member to take a minute or so and share with us like one way forward, like what you would suggest that we could work at the regional or at different levels that will enhance the external works of NHRIs to protect and promote the rights of gender and sexual minorities and other marginalized groups. So if you may wish to start, Sonali ji.
Thank you, Binda ji. Talking about one is very difficult because I had like a long list. But I think one that I would really want to reiterate is the role of NHRIs in promoting accountability strategies. And for doing so, working with the civil society organizations and moving forward in terms of, the shared learnings on both sides in terms of whether it is protection or promotion of rights, and not only of generic groups, but also of all the marginalized communities in specific. As well as I just also wanted to share that it would be great in terms of partnering with existing alliances that have really worked on addressing and responding to and preventing sexual and gender-based violence, as well as sexual and reproductive health rights. And one thing that has been coming through not only in this panel, but also in the previous panels is the follow-up of recommendations of the National Human Rights Institutions. Because we have lots of recommendations, great recommendations, whether it is on a particular single complaint or systemic violation, for instance, one undertaken by NHRC Nepal in terms of Chaupadi, or the CHR Philippines inquiry on women with disabilities. Those recommendations need to be followed up. So if there are very clear strategic action plans to kind of follow these up, I guess I'll stop at that, and that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonali ji. So, Honorable Vuki, if you may wish to share, yes, one way forward.
Yeah, I think there was a question from a dear lady somewhere in the middle here. She asked whether the NHRIs could come and establish a regional mechanism within the Pacific region. How do you go about doing that? I can only say that within the Pacific region, there is a political body called the Pacific Forum. That body, all the leaders of the South Pacific Island states, including New Zealand and region, they meet together and they make decisions. On the agenda of that body are also human rights issues. Their latest declaration was on the rights of the disability people. So in terms of a regional mechanism to be established in the Pacific region, there is a possibility if the forum as a political body, if the leaders can come together and make a resolution for that body to come about. That is the only way that I can see that being resolved. I can't see any other way, because at the moment, apart from Australia and New Zealand, it's only Samoa and Fiji that have an NHRI. The other island states probably thinking about it. Tuvalu, I hear, has just put up a shell of an NHRI, but it's not running. It's just, I mean, the building is there, I think, but there's no staff, nothing, etc. I don't know the reason, but that's the only way that I can think at the moment when I look at how the region functions. That the regional mechanism will have to be a resolution of the South Pacific Forum. What was the other question? On the gender-based violence, I was thinking as well about a particular study that the Fiji women's rights movement and their findings came out in 2017. Over a period of time, they looked at the court and the police records. And one of the findings was that males in Fiji are also making complaints on gender-based violence. So the statistics declared that there were about over 5,000 complaints from males suffering gender-based violence. Over the same period of time, the statistics from the female were twice more, were over 12,000 from female suffering gender-based violence. Now, the interesting thing is that I think we need to be aware within the room is that while the males continue to be the dominant perpetrator of violence against women, however, there are the invisible males who also suffer female domestic violence. And I think we need to seriously think about that at all. That is what I thought I'd bring up.
Thank you so much. So, Yong, from your end, any last minute way forward? Thank you.
So, globally, almost 800 women dying every day because they were pregnant or because they were delivering a baby. And Asia-Pacific region is one of the main contributors to those very high level of the maternal deaths, even in 2024. And almost 650 million women are either married before age of 18 or going to marry before age of 18 in 2024. Out of 3.9 billion women in the world, almost 16% of the women still facing child marriage. This is the era of the people are going to the moon or Mars with a private rocket. We are still dealing with this very antiquated situation to really claim the space of the women and girls, but also it is reversely affecting the welfare and the happiness of the many families, and also is reversing the economic gain made through the economic activity. Question is, what is the role of the NHRI in this region? And NHRI capacity, financing, investigation, etc., etc. What is the ideal role of the NHRI and actual institutional arrangement as so-called business model? Do we have the right business model? And it is time for us to also revisit, re-strategize, and expanding the alliance, tap into the different knowledge for you to be able to do your job in 21st century, ever rapidly increasing human rights issue. The issue we dealt yesterday, and you're gonna deal with another 100 different issues will arrive, and how we're gonna cope with it. So fundamental question is how regional cooperation and also individual government setting, how we're gonna make the NHRI model is right and fit to purpose. This is the one question we should take forward.
Thank you so much. Now, Ms. Rosa, your turn, please.
Thank you. Well, I think as an NHRI, as an independent body, we should enforce our mandates and strengthen our functions and roles to ensure that we are not just a watchdog, as Sonali have alluded to, but take the leadership in identifying, in addressing, and the leadership in ensuring that there is consistent monitoring and reporting. With monitoring and reporting, there will be recommendations made and ensure that action does happen on the ground. Rather than recommending, but we could have this forum today, in the next 2 years we could have another forum, we will be singing the same song again. But let's have a different tune onto it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rosa. So I think this is a very good time to say thank you so much to all the panel members for sharing the insightful, interesting learnings and their experiences from the respective countries and also based on the work they are involved in. I think we had discussed a lot of areas, a lot of issues. I would not like to summarize because the main responsibility of summarizing it and presenting to the group is also we have Honorable Chair. So it was a pleasure facilitating these sessions, and I hope that the discussion points that we are able to bring in today's plenary will be helpful in designing, and also it will contribute to the declaration that the team is working on, bringing in all the delegates from different parts of the country and also in Nepal. So thank you so much for this opportunity for me providing, and also I would like to thank from my side to all the panel members and also the chair. So now with a humble request to Honorable Chair Mariyam Muna to summarize the overall discussions, and also if you could shed light on a few of the key recommendations from this panel discussion to the team who are drafting the declaration for this international conference. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Madam, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Indeed, it has been a very enlightening engagement here, and then I've heard a lot from different NHRIs and also our development partners as well, and being given our uniqueness individually, we do have similar constraints, as we all know, right? So we understand that we do have financial constraints all over, in all NHRIs. So for first and foremost, I think it is important to note that we have to be having a continuous engagement with our development partners, international partners, in order to gain the required funding, also capacity building in terms of dealing and being very resilient to the issue of gender-based violence and sexual violence as well. And that is one thing we would like to highlight. And coming back to the reporting mechanism, it is very important that that there has to be a robust mechanism which is very holistic, where the victims are given the legal aid, they are given the right protection, they are given the right shelters they need, and they're provided with the right support system. So it is a holistic approach that any nation will have to take action towards. And in doing so, I think it is an important role of the NHRI to continuously engage with the state authorities and international partners to ensure that these things are in place. And as very rightly said by my colleague here, that there has to be effective accountability strategies established within all NHRIs, and also it could be a combined, collaborative mechanism whereby this is further enhanced by strengthening and by also providing capacity building capacity development assistance to the NHRIs, which they actually required. And also looking at coming back to what one of our panelists mentioned, that the advocacy programs we run, or the news, or the challenging issues, or the very horrific stories within our societies, the realities with regards to gender-based violence and sexual violence, these news doesn't reach the youngsters, and they're not aware of it. So we have to come up with new ideas and new, rather technologically advanced mechanisms whereby these information, the advocacy work reach to these young groups who are very, like I would say, indifferent of what is happening until it happens to them. So another important thing for us to do will be to include human rights awareness and gender-based violence and all these topics to some extent within the education system and the curriculum, so that it is not all of a sudden a new thing when they grow up, or which they don't have any idea of. So starting from the beginning, we think that it is important to be included within our education system and the curriculum, so that the children are more aware and more resilient to these issues. And one more thing will be to have, in fact, very rightly mentioned by my colleague, that with all the right resources and with all the right capabilities and funds, without a good leadership or without the commitment or will from the leadership, there won't be anything happening. So I think it is very important for NHRIs to have a mechanism or standards set within the NHRIs that the new leadership who comes, who takes the chair, will have to undergo certain level of training, so capacity building programs, so that they are sensitized to these issues. Because when we look at the human rights institutions, you know, there are mostly commissioners and chairpersons coming with terms, or rather like full-time or part-time commissioners. So I think not everyone will have the right ideologies or mindset or that exposure. So it is important for NHRIs to have set standards whereby each commissioner or the leadership goes through the certain training programs, which will be very critical in dealing with the issues they face. And also, one more important thing I would just like to highlight, that the Maldives NHRI being the national preventive mechanism, as we are signatory to the CAT Convention and the OPCAT, we have been given certain powers in an extra to an NHRI, because we do look into torture cases of duty bearers, torture acts within, let's say, prisons, and also people and children under state care. So we have always noticed that, you know, in prison settings, oftentimes it happens that there is a lot of gender-sensitive issues occurring there, in terms of, if you look at body searches, women are more prone to be violated, rights violation, more prone to be violated in terms of their rights. And so in this regard, women forego, because of these things, women forego certain rights. Like, for example, they will refuse to go out of the prison and then to come back, because there will be strip searches or body searches in this regard. So we have actually issued a lot of recommendations to the state as well, so that in order to establish mechanisms which are less invasive but can be monitored. So these are important things to be noted. And also, like, if you look at there are, since prison centers, prisons are very male-centric, the settings are very male-centric, there's no further accommodation for women who are there, because women are less compared to the male community within the prison. So what happens is, if an inmate is a breastfeeding inmate, there are no, set standards or protocols to follow in terms of how to feed the baby and how to be handled and all those things. So I think it is very important to note these things, and we come up with set standards as NHRIs. We deal and we talk to the authority, the states, and the prison regulative authorities to ensure that these things and standards are set in place to protect women inmates who are in jail as well. So it is a humble request that as NHRIs, we do have a role to, you know, push governments to sign the conventions. It is very important that all NHRIs advance their efforts to, if the country is not a signatory to the CAT Convention, it is important that it be signed, so that it will further, protect the rights of our vulnerable groups and women and marginalized groups as well, and also the prison communities and people under state care. So that is also an important thing that has to be noted. All in all, I think it has been a very fruitful discussion, and I think to my ability, I think I have summarized it well and delivered the key messages as we have discussed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, all the panelists, the session chair, and the facilitator. The discussion was a great exchange of ideas on the important issue of protection, monitoring, and promotion of elimination of sexual and gender-based violence. To express our sincere gratitude, we would like to present you with a token of appreciation. I kindly request the session chair, Honorable Mariyam Muna, to offer this token of gratitude to all the panelists and the facilitator. I request the chairperson of NHRIs Nepal to come forward to present the token of appreciation to Honorable Mariyam Muna, the President of Human Rights Commission of Maldives.